When most people hear about somatic healing, they think that it's just breath work or yoga, but that misunderstanding might be the reason you're still feeling anxious, exhausted, or stuck, even after years of a lot of different personal work. I'm Danielle Rubio, somatic trauma coach, intuitive guide, and mindfulness teacher. And in this video, I want to break down 3 of the most common misconceptions about somatic healing, about somatic therapy, that are keeping women from experiencing real transformation in life. And I'm talking about the kind of transformation where you literally wake up to a completely different life. I'm talking about the kind of transformation where you are no longer at the whims of stressful experiences. And let's face it, this world is full of stressful experiences, from work stress to family stress to relationship stress. Women are at an all-time high rate of things like anxiety, of depression, of feeling unfulfilled in their lives. And I've been on a mission to help turn that all around. So even though we might come across situations every single day that could ruffle our feathers, I want you to get to a place where you're going to surf any and all of the waves that life might bring your way. And not just the waves, but also the tsunamis. So let's dive in to these 3 myths, these 3 misconceptions that women are often perceiving, and not just women. I say women because I work mostly with women, but it goes across the board, women or men, these misconceptions that they have around somatic healing and what somatic healing even is. So I want to clear this up because I've seen this work, not just in my own life. So I can, I've shared my story in various other videos on my channel around my own personal transformation. But I also want to share with you that I've seen this work absolutely transform women who had spent years in therapy, or they spent years in coaching programs, they spent years in manifestation practices, or maybe they even spent years doing, even more far out practices like, say, 60-day fasts and meditating in dark caves. And I will say, I was one of those people. And I work with women who have done that all the time, or who have done countless plant medicine ceremonies, and yet they're still feeling like they're chasing their tail. And I was there too. You can only do so much, and you're still lashing out at your partner, or you're still having emotional ups and downs, or you're spending thousands and thousands of dollars on therapy, and at some point you go, this isn't working. And so as clear as I can get you to be around what somatic therapy is, the better, because I know that this works. I've seen it work. I've seen it work with women from all demographics, from all around the world, because we're working with your literal software program of who you are. So without further ado, let's get into these myths. So the first myth is that somatic work is just breath work or yoga. And I can really understand why people have this misconception, because a lot of the yoga world has started using like somatics as a marketing term. So they'll say somatic yoga or somatic breath work. Well, in some way that's true, because somatic just means the body, if we want to take the literal translation. Soma is a Greek word that means body. So yes, if you're doing anything with your body, technically it could be called somatic this, somatic that, but it could also be, somatically picking up my cup to take a drink, or somatically going on a walk. So you see, it's kind of become this buzzword. But somatic work is not yoga, and somatic work is not breath work. Somatic work is getting in tune via neurosensory practices. And neurosensory practices are essentially practices that are helping you to work with your nervous system. And we're working with the nervous system through our sensorial experience. So think about your 5 senses. And we actually have more than 5 senses, and I get into that in other videos. But you think about your senses, you think about the felt sense, right? And we're using a myriad of different neurosensory practices that we have designed in this field to essentially help you drop into the body. And one of the main differences between somatic movements and yoga is that in somatics, there's nothing linear about it, really. So while in yoga you have like these specific poses that a yoga instructor is instructing you to do, this pose and this pose and this pose, somatic movement is very organic because we are following the lead of our body. And actually in yoga, you're still following the lead of cognitive thinking because you have an instructor telling you the poses to do. You're thinking about, okay, I'm gonna do downward dog, or I'm gonna do warrior 1 or warrior 2, and then you put your body in that pose. So it's actually quite linear. And that's not where we wanna be when we're doing true somatic work. And disclaimer, I'm also saying this as a yoga teacher of over 18 years. So I love yoga, I do teach yoga, I respect the practice, but yoga is not somatic work. It's not somatic therapy. So breathwork. Breathwork is also not somatic therapy. So a somatic therapist might use breathwork in some of their practices, and I use it in some of my workshops and in my one-to-one work sometimes. However, breathwork as a standalone practice is not a somatic therapy because, again, we don't want to come into any sort of contrivance. So a lot of times in breath work, again, you're doing like a specific inhale breath or a specific exhale breath, and it is mechanical. And again, I'm not saying that there aren't benefits to breath work or there aren't benefits to yoga, but that is not what somatic work is. So we might use breath work, but it's a very small part of the somatic work. So if we're going to use breath work in any somatic therapy practice, it's going to be in conjunction with other movement therapeutics or with different neurosensory practices, or it might be used in conjunction as the somatic therapist is bringing you deep into a childhood wound and you're doing some memory reprocessing work. But as it stands alone, that isn't like what somatic therapy is breath work. So the second myth that I want to talk about is that in doing somatic therapy, you're going to have to relive your trauma. This is not true. So we are not going in and trying to dig up traumas and talking about them and talking about them and talking about them. That's actually what often happens in traditional talk therapies. This is why sometimes there is this chance that somebody could be re-traumatized doing talk therapy, because you are hashing out historical adverse events that happened in your life, and you are essentially reliving it. In somatic work, we're very, very gentle. And again, we're letting the body lead, right? So we're not even telling the body like how to breathe. We're not telling the body how to move. We're not telling the body how to feel. Like, we're not trying to bypass anything or reach for that better thought. We are really allowing the body to be the queen, to lead us in the way that she needs to go. I like to tell my clients, it's like your triggers are the compass and your body is the map. So we are following the lead of the body to allow the body its natural, organic expressions. And we learn through the various neurosensory practices, we learn through all the different tools that a somatic therapist will give you, and how to be with your body's natural expression. And sometimes that natural expression might be a sadness, or sometimes it might be a grief, or it might be anger. And if you're working with someone, who's very well experienced, they're going to be able to guide you and hold that space with you so that you can be with whatever is arising. And the point is to be so gentle in how we're doing this. And we have various tools such as titration or pendulation that are also helping the clinician and helping the client to be able to just go before an edge and ease up, and before an edge and ease up. So ease is the name of the game here. We absolutely do not want to bring somebody to a point where they are overwhelmed, because if you are overwhelmed, you're going to dysregulate the nervous system again. And as you learn, the more videos of mine you watch on this channel, the more you follow me, the main point that we're wanting to get to in our somatic work is to regulate the nervous system, is to bring the nervous system to a place of homeostasis. We don't want the nervous system stuck in this alarm, in this overwhelm, which is essentially the root of all of these symptoms that we're seeing skyrocket these days, from the anxiety to the depression to the emotional roller coasters. So we work very gentle in this field. Misconception number 3 I want to talk about is that it's going to take a long time to heal. So this is not always the case, and I would say that it's mostly not the case. I've had women just on my free consult calls, or when somebody's just come to me. Sometimes I live in a small town, and so sometimes I'll have women come up to me, and men come up to me on the street, and they know what I do, and so they ask me about something happening in their life, and I usually can't help it that I start kind of leading them through a practice, and they already can feel this release. They can already feel this weight dropping off. You'd be surprised how much can change really quick. And it's kind of something that you have to experience to know what I mean. You have to experience it to experience it. But often changes can happen immediately. I had a woman that I was talking to that had years of severe jaw pain, and I was just talking to her on a free consult call, and in that call the jaw released through various practices and guidance that I was leading her through. And she wrote to me recently, said that call was almost 2 years ago, and there's still no pain in the jaw. So it can happen really quick. It doesn't always happen really quick, but it often does. And usually what happens is you start to receive benefits right away. You start to feel this weight kind of coming off right away. And then there's more layers, right, that we need to peel back, and more layers and more layers, because this is a lifestyle change, right? Like, you wouldn't go into a weight loss program and then when the weight loss program is over, you go back to eating McDonald's and eating a bunch of ice cream all the time. Like, in order to maintain that healthy physical state of being, you stay on it. It becomes your life. And it's the same way for our emotional well-being, our mental well-being. We want to stay on our game. So we start implementing these practices into our daily life. We implement this wisdom into our daily life so that we can reap the benefits throughout the rest of our life. So if what I've shared today has been helpful, if it's sparked something in you, if you're hearing like a whisper going, I wonder about this, I want to learn more about this, feel free to book a call. I have a link in the caption, and you can book a free one-to-one call with me, a free consult call, we can dive into your journey and we can see if this path is a path that will work well for you. Thank you for being here.